My name is Jennifer Dizo, and I am a principal with the BTI Consulting Group, post-matter communications with clients. Specifically, how to follow up with clients once a matter is closed in order to keep the relationship going and to win new work. Many times when a matter ends, there isn't always a clear indication about what's next. You don't end up having a discussion about the upcoming matters that they may have or work that the client may want you to handle. At best, maybe you've gotten a vague, we'll be in touch, but there's nothing concrete for you to follow up on. So what we're going to do today is put a business development plan in your hands, in your control, because we don't want to be at the mercy of the client getting back to us when they need us again. Too much can happen between one matter ending and the next time the client's ready to hire a law firm. So at the heart of building a successful post-matter communication plan is making sure you always have reasons to reach out to the client. And we want to make them viable ones, reasons that will result in the client actually talking with us and not simply putting us off until a later date. Our first opportunity to extend the client communication cycle is close to after that first matter ends. And it's by conducting a post-mortem meeting with the client. You need to follow up pretty quickly after the matter closes in order to make this scenario really work to your advantage. Lots of businesses outside of law conduct these post-mortem meetings, and it is a proven practice to build a client's investment in a business relationship. If you want to build more business with clients, you need to make sure that the relationship is already in a good place. The biggest question that any client, potential, existing, is going to ask themselves before hiring a law firm is, do I want to work with this person again? And that's exactly what your existing clients are saying. Now, the only way to find out how the relationship is going is to ask. You know, you're going to have your side, your perspective on how you think the past matter went and how the relationship worked together. But unfortunately, since you're not the one deciding who the client is going to hire next, your opinion has very little pull here. So we actually have to go out and ask the clients this question outright. Let's talk about quickly why this works psychologically, having one of these post-mortem meetings. The first is when you sit down with a client to have a post-mortem meeting, it shows them that you're invested in the relationship with them. You're looking for ways to improve the client's experience. This sends them the subtle message that there is going to be an ongoing relationship. From a relationship management perspective, this meeting is also critical because it allows you to shape the final and overriding perception that the client is going to have of your work on a matter. You're not leaving it up to chance. You're not going to let the client try to remember all the wonderful things that you've done for them. You're going to have a meeting and make sure that they remember exactly what it is that you did for them. So let's talk through what this now all-important post-mortem meeting actually looks like. First, we're not looking for a long meeting. In fact, the more targeted this meeting can be, the better. This is, again, only phase one of business development, and in fact, we're not selling anything here. We're simply learning how we're going to sell the next time we talk with the client. So you can usually conduct this meeting in about 45 minutes or so. I recommend having an in-person meeting if at all possible, but conference calls will work if scheduling is too chaotic. You know, one note, I would actually back off of using a video conference in this particular instance unless that's already an established standard between you and the client. If you can't do it in person, a regular phone call will actually get you better information than a video conference can if you're not already having that type of interaction with the client. Video conferences have this amazing ability to make everyone self-conscious and less forthcoming than they usually are. And the other piece, the lure, the bait for getting the client to actually participate in this meeting, is that you're going to tell them you want to wrap up a few loose ends. You want to make sure everything's been delivered as expected to them and also to their major stakeholders. And when you word it this way, I've yet to see a client who won't make time for this meeting. Now, I've put up a sample agenda for you here, and the first portion of this meeting should take maybe 15 to 20 minutes or so, and really dedicated to discussing the client's overall goals and whether or not they feel as though you've delivered on what they were expecting. Now, your role here and throughout this entire meeting is to steer the conversation. You're going to ask some pointed questions, and I'll give you some of those in just a moment. You're going to listen, and you are going to agree with everything that the client says. Now, normally, being a good consultant, I would usually throw a caveat around that statement, but really, unless there is an egregious misunderstanding on the client's part, you really just need to take in what they're saying. You know, in the entertainment industry, they call this taking your note. So at the end of a rehearsal, the director will give notes to all of the actors on their performance. And actors can sometimes be prone to defend the choices that they've made, but ultimately it's the director's show. So a common phrase that is uttered during these note sessions is take the note and move on, meaning don't argue, you're not going to win anyway. So in our case, the client is the director. Their perception is their perception, and the performance has already happened. So take the note and move on. Now, I want to be clear, though. This doesn't mean that you are going to be a silent participant in this meeting by any chance, and you are going to get a chance to state your side throughout the course of this meeting. You want to be sure that you come to this meeting armed with your talking points. Hit upon what you've achieved for the client. Now, we don't need to outline every single action that we've taken, but we do want to provide them with the highlight reel, so to speak. Did scope change in the middle of the matter, but you kept the matter on time or budget? Here's a great time to bring that up again. Did management change their definition of success along the way, and you were still able to meet everybody's objectives? That definitely deserves a mention. We're looking at big ticket items here. Now's not the time to focus on the 12 revisions of a policy. We're looking at the business outcome decisions, actions that added value. We don't want to talk about task management here. Also, this is a time to make sure that nothing was overlooked. So you want to ask, is there anything else that the client needs or is expecting in relation to this matter? Maybe they'd like you to have a follow-up meeting with the management team, or there's some form of documentation that they'd like to have. Now's the time to get a verbal confirmation from the client that they're not expecting anything else from you. Okay, so now we're going to move into the heart of why you really want to have this meeting, and that's to find out if there's anything that you can be doing to improve this relationship. So this is the performance section of the agenda. Now, the rule of thumb that you want to follow here is make sure that you have the client take the lead on every positive-driven question. So questions like, what did the firm do well? What was the most valuable piece that we delivered to them? Those are the things that you want the client answering first. Then you want to take the lead on all the negative-driven questions. So things like what went wrong throughout the course of the matter, or what could have been done better. This allows you to be on the offense. You're going to be able to set the tone, and you're going to be able to manage the client's perceptions of even things that maybe didn't go quite as planned throughout the course of the matter. Now, it's nice to sort of say in an ideology point of view, but let me give you an example of how this actually works. And I'm going to use an example from a postmortem that I've done with a client. So I was doing a client feedback project for a smaller law firm, and about halfway through the project, the managing partner decided that she wanted to add a market research component to the project as well. She was looking to understand how some potential clients were viewing the firm in a particular city that this firm wanted to enter into. And unfortunately, BTI, we just had a really hard time getting the number of interviews completed that she wanted to see completed by the time the project was slated to end. So in our postmortem, I tackled the issue head on because I knew she was disappointed. So what I said was, I hate that we couldn't get more interviews for you in this market before we close the project. But I think given the time frame, the 25 interviews that we were able to get is still strong enough to pull some interesting insights out of. Um, you know, each of these 25 potential clients, they expressed an interest in hearing more about the firm, and we did target the largest clients first. So these clients, they spend more than $100 million on outside counsel services annually. So there's still an opportunity here. And then, of course, I followed up with, we're happy to continue this leg of the research if you still want more insights from this particular market research. Now, what I didn't do here is obviously bring up the fact that she added this new aspect of the project halfway through the project. There's no point in placing blame or, finding those root causes of it. What you do want to do is focus on what you were able to provide given the circumstances. You really want to take the lead on the negative side of the conversation. Clients, they're going to chime in eventually and they're going to add their own thoughts. And like before, we just want to take the note and move on. But, you want to set the tone. You don't want small issues to get blown out of proportion because that's not the lasting impression you want the client to have of you. Now, your closing question in this section of the agenda is the most important question that you're going to ask in this entire meeting. And what you're going to ask is, what have you learned from working with other firms that can help us improve or that we should avoid doing in our next matter? And the information that you get from asking the client what they like or dislike from other law firms is your skeleton key to outperforming competitors. It gives you that critical insight that you need into the competitive landscape, and it sends the client a subtle message that you can easily give them the full experience that they're looking for in a single law firm. Of course, once you ask this question and get a response from the client, it is of course upon you to deliver what it is that the client has now shared with you. Finally, we're going to move into the meeting closeout. And this really should be pretty short and sweet. The secret here is you want to make sure that you are including an inarguable way for you to reach out and follow up with the client again. So whether it's a known deliverable that you still need to get the client as part of the work, so say something like the invoice, or if there is nothing outstanding, focus on providing maybe one additional tool that's related to the work that you just finished for them. So let's say that you just finished a regulatory matter for a large manufacturer. You can then tell them that you're going to follow up with a checklist that will help them assess whether or not they're at risk of a penalty under the new Affordable Care mandates. So, whatever makes the most sense given your client, your matter, your practice, the important part is let the client know that you will be following up. And you're going to hold out something of value, a little carrot, so that they don't turn down the next meeting that you want to set up with them. Again, remember, our underlying goal here is ongoing communication because that's fundamental to developing more business with clients. Let me say, I appreciate that the formal post-mortem meeting simply just, it may not be feasible in some instances. Sometimes scheduling truly is a nightmare. Or perhaps you'd like feedback from all of your clients at the end of a matter, but quite frankly, the sheer volume of conducting this many meetings would ensure that you'd never bill another hour. So what we've seen more firms starting to do is implementing an online post-mortem feedback survey. And these tools can be quite effective. And so what I've done here is I've highlighted sort of the core questions that I would want to make sure we include in this online tool. And you do want to keep these pretty short and sweet. You want clients to fill them out. You want them to be thoughtful, but you also don't want it to take an hour of their time to fill out. The one note that I would add about an online feedback instrument is if this is a large client or a high potential client, do everything in your power to go with that in-person or phone meeting, because you're going to get good feedback online, but you're going to get far better, far deeper feedback as part of a conversation. So what you're looking at here, this is a sampling of quotes that BTI heard about during client feedback research. And the blue portion of the quote, that's what came out of the hard and fast survey questions. The orange quotes, and they are from the same individual that the blue quote is associated with. The orange quotes are the ones that came out after BTI's interviewers started probing at some aspect of the client relationship. And you can see it's by having these probes, this back and forth conversation, that's what really leads us to those crucial insights in how we're going to strengthen and improve our relationships with clients. With that, I do want to thank everyone again today for joining me. I do welcome you to reach out to me directly, and my number and my email are on the screen. Feel free to reach out to me if you have specific questions.